My never I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there. I see them yopo.
This time around with Honorable Suhuyini on this topic. And Honorable, you have 10 minutes on that issue.
Okay, so let me just agree with Mr. Kwesi Pratt that I don't also subscribe to the assertion.
Abusha for someone who say a hanum ayi tuma nature say a dum so ena akain ane. Someone who say precope light no a cop sana mishe sumu a sumu na mishe and mini plant mini generator mini a dum somu any yeshem timpacho temasekakra until see binya light and mishe dum somu. Aha, mishe dum somu ena adwumadi na ekoso sa no ntino tiase ema me mesropa na yentie enkomo no.
At polling, elections are only won at polling stations. As important as that is, the people who decide the elections, in some cases, the outcome of the elections, in some cases, are also the electoral officers. And I'll give you a typical example with this registration exercise. For me, the decision by the Electoral Commission, led by its chairman, to centralize the registration at the various district offices is a rigging mechanism. Anybody who studies elections will tell you about suppression of votes. It's a rigging mechanism. It's a clear rigging mechanism that has been put in place to put impediments on the way of potential voters. Because wherever there is change in an election, that change usually is largely influenced by first-time voters. You can check electoral, polls. Largely, every time there's a major change in a country, first-time voters contribute a chunk to that change. So if you are a government in power and you know the wind of change is blowing against you, it's in your interest to suppress the numbers, make it, more difficult for new voters to get onto the voter roll. And that is why that decision to centralize the registration at the district offices, knowing the difficult terrain that we live in as a country, for me, is a rigging mechanism. It's one of the things put in place. But as a party, we are doing everything within our limited resources to overcome those challenges. Senna, like I ended the last time, this country needs saving. And for me, sometimes it's not just the tax of saving the country, but the work ahead after we save this country. And that is why I get excited about the NDC's 24-hour economy policy. Because the level of distraction is such that the next government cannot do things as usual. To bring this country back from the valley of destruction, we will need to do unusual things. And one of those unusual things is to promote work 24 hours. Because there's really a lot of work for us to do, given the level. Work 24 hours. Because there's really a lot of work for us to do, given the level of destruction. So now many people, especially Muslims, are either preparing to perform Hajj this year, or they are preparing to send off their loved ones to perform Hajj. And you know how much they are supposed to pay? 75,000 Ghana cedis is the fare. 75,000 Ghana cedis. The old currency, that's 750 million. 750 million old cedis. Almost a billion. And this is happening at a time we have a certain vice president who campaigned on the basis that he is Muslim, and he's still doing so. And so therefore, he feels entitled to all Muslim votes. And yet, in 2016, under a Christian president, Muslim pilgrims were paying 11,900. So I can imagine the increase. 11,900.
Nti abusan for a power bank light any yaso. A boy near senya a friend saying another ring light be a yedisi hanum. And a ring light intinama light no abaka cran. Yeah, that's what do so much.
Not 15,000, not 20,000, not 30,000, not 40,000, not 50,000, not 60,000, 75,000 today. And for me, what is more worrying is that he has never even bothered to give us an explanation as our brother. So it is as if the focus is on using all of our citizens to get power and then use that power to serve themselves. The banking sector, financial sector, you can see has clearly been successfully captured thanks to the operations and mechanisms put in place by the former finance minister. Enterprise and others have dislodged all competitors. And they are doing all of this through the power that they seek from us. So the vice president can enjoy all the perks in office as a Muslim vice president. But what affects Muslims doesn't concern him. At least just explain to us why we have to pay that much. Just say something. Just tell us what you have done. And we will decide whether what you have done is enough or not. But you just act like you don't care. But then when you are going for an election, you go to the regions and you gather Muslims alone. Because you don't want the Christian clergy to know what you are telling them. So you gather the Muslim clergy alone, quietly, and tout your Muslim credentials and establish your entitlement to their votes. And then hypocritically go and meet the Christian clergy and preach a different message to them. I hope that our clergymen are conscious to this game. Because if he has nothing to hide, why is he not meeting them together? In fact, in many of our regions, they even have common platforms that these different clergies meet. But he will use that, get the power.
Abusan for didi na ekoso na aja amanfo a omo asoso omo generator na eyi didi sa no timpacho mo fa nche kakra didi no.
Brothers. And I'm coming to Brian Achampong. I'm establishing how they use the power to serve themselves. Yes. Yes, I'm coming there. I will up on that. I'm coming there. So he gets the power, and you see the brothers' contracts, the Bawumia's contracts, all over the place. Without PPA approvals. In some cases, very fictitious, timelines where the approvals and the sole source, fat contracts of the Bawumias. And now you have SML also to deal with. I mean, this government, wherever you look, there are scandals. Finally, the president has released the report. No parliamentary approval, no board approvals. PPA denied them approvals, but they still found a way. And now look at this. Our pension money. Because SNET is supposed to assure you and I who are actively working today that in our old age when we are on retirement, the contributions that we are making will be available and would have been properly invested and dividends earned to support our needs in our old age. And look at how they are managing those investments. A hotel that is partially operating, is able to demonstrate more competence and capacity to acquire a hotel that is over 30 years old, 40 years old. And actually, making profits and paying dividends to government. Labadi Hotel. It's one of the oldest hotels in Ghana. And Rock City, at the time that it was bidding for this, had just partially opened. They were not even operating fully at the time that they were bidding for this. I mean, how ridiculous. How is it that the state is unable to manage such a strategic asset, and an inexperienced Rock City is demonstrating its ability to manage it? And the person involved is a cabinet minister. And you listen to his explanations, and like the sheer audacity, the entitlement mentality makes them even miss the points that are made about conflict of interest and about unfair dealings. And Sana, you know why this is happening? Because I don't have time. You know why this is happening? This is happening because there's change leadership at SNET. And that's why we are hearing about all this. Just SNET. And again, that is why it is important that we all, focus on what unites us more to rescue this country and see the true length of the frog. Because they say that when the frog dies, you see its true length. This is just change in leadership at SNET within the same government that is revealing all this and more. Do you know that there's also evidence that despite the fact that SNET has SNET hospitals across the country, they actually entered into a contract with an insurance company to be providing health insurance for SNET workers, when their workers could have just gone to the SNET hospitals to be treated, and the SNET reimburses those hospitals because their hospitals are across the country. But they still saw the need to get a health insurance, a third party person, to be getting some percentage, cool, and be providing health insurance. Then they had these affordable houses that they were made to complete, and I'm finishing on that note. Sorry. These affordable houses, do you know that they have also gone into a contract with a property company known as ICANN Properties to sell those houses for them? SNET finished those houses, and they have an estate unit that was selling those houses, and nobody I know bought those houses from SNET on credit. You were given a percentage, you paid the percentage, and then they started working on documentation. Until you finished paying, you were not given a key. So how difficult is such a transaction to require a third party so that that person also get 13% or 15%? And who is burdened with that percentage? Is it SNIT or the buyer? All these schemes created. Then go and look at the ownership of Icon Properties. Go and look at the ownership of Premium Insurance and Equity Insurance. All those who got these juicy pies. And then Brian also, with Rock City, took the hotels. State capture. Classical state capture.
Honorable Suhuyini, thank you. Thank you very much.
Eti abusafo eno ena eye owura Al-Hassan Suhuyini a member of parliament Edema Tamale North constituency ono ena wabekasa adiafa omanpenyini abedi akire Mahmudu Bawumia ene kwan a opeso ofaso edida Ghana forma omoto aba edema no ene omanpenyini abedi akire adane no ho sabio a religious ashawo person, a religious prostitute, ene na oti enkanka for us or them Pentecost for us or the assemblies for us or the adecha or nkramoni adecha obosumsumi ni chese ba bia ya omanpenyini abedi akire Mahmudu Bawumia ebenya bia no na wawura ho na owura ho so a na odi religious politics ene eku wura ho no nyoma ebetumi aye na ede akosem aba oma ekuro yi mo no eno ena omanpenyina abedi akire oye ama saa nyoma no abe start na saa nsem we a start ya ekoso na o blackmaili eye nkramofo na ono de ono na ekramoni a ye na ba ye nto aba ma no ne ho ade ade a mpenyifo akoma no atumu a omo nkasa no Christian Council for akoma no atumu Islamic Council for akoma no atumu National House of Chiefs akoma no atumu Peace Council enkasaye omo hwe no ahwe ha ene Ghana already we are battling a year offense and tribal politics and no and say oman gradually oman penyina abedi akire so ede a year offense religious politics so e ba be ka ho ena me Kristoni ena me abosonsomi ni ena me yesi ena me yesi ne Bawumia eye no se mpenyifo anhwe ankasa nkyere no no wanjai saa ensemhunu no na omuma ne toa so ekoso ye na yam politics no ebedane religious eso san ka ho okrum ha abusuafo yetiate me come what you see we are doomed forever because religious politics are dangerous than tribal politics there eya na mostly no ensheda enye enyoma bebre because sabi fantini etumi ware konkomani timi ko ware igbeni timi ko ware asantini timi ko ware frafrani timi ko ware sabi kroboni timi ko ware mefensen dagumani enti sa tribal fensen politics no eya na enye hu saa eno no amanfo emfa omakoma enni akiri baradia ehu pa wiase babia eye religious politics because religious politics no eno ekwa ma no kopem say nipa no o defend ni nyankopon ena onipa biara eya na adwen so o defend ni nyankopon obetumi de ne nkwa atoso because na adwen ne say owumpa obenya nkwaje ewo soro ho nyame no a o defend no beje ne nkwa ewo soro ho enti eno no eye dangerous but ahwe ama omanpenyini abedi akire eguso ena all breaki saa nyoma no all this ade no eba yem political fence system no mu ewo Ghana ha ene ye hwe ena oye de oye no yenya obia entunofo ye lucky ya ne say omanpenyini abedi akire Mahmudu Bawumia ewo mu say oye kramoni no na pensu krampo na meka ne say kramofo sabio omo achi omo pa omo achi omo a kire say mfasodie biara ni ho no mo a efri omanpenyini aban so omanpenyini abedi akire aban so aba efense nkramofo so samobeka ya 2017 yeto aba ewie ya pe ena omanpenyini Akufo-Addo eti eye Zongo ministry sɛ saa zongo ministry no ɛbɛgyina hɔ ɛde ama ɛyɛ nkramofoɔ nyinaa ne ɔmo adehiadeɛ ne ɔmo problems ne ɛho adeade. After 2020 elections pa ɛna ogu saa ministry no wagu no. Yɛn nyinaa yɛnim Mecca nkramofoɔ afi bi ɔmo kɔ Mecca kɔbɔ mpaeɛ de ma ɔmo ho ne ɔman no from Mahama apenso na kramoni ɛbɛkɔ Mecca na ohia just around 12,000 to 15,000 12,000 to 15,000 a obetumi di aye bibi akɔ aba asomdwem enti na enya ade a na ehu saa enne a mene mo kasa yi sakramoni bi ekɔ Mecca ɛwɔ so okuta ne nsam 75,000 Ghana cedis tete sika no 750 million Ghana sika no tete sika no 750 million, almost a billion Ghana cedis ɛna nipa no ɛwɔ so okura ansa na watumi akɔ Mecca. Yɛsi yɛ okramoni a sɛbio ɔyɛ vice president ɛnso so hwɛ baabi a wama ɛnɛ nkramofoɔ esi apinisifa ontimi nya ho hwee nanso so ɛkɔba ne critical sisi a na ɔne nam na ɔde me yɛ kramoni o ɛna monto aba mam yo na me yɛ kramoni o na yɛnto aba ma o sɛ wo yɛ kramoni no yɛnto aba ma amo abɛyɛ den obi a 2020 elections na wonam kurum ha o yɛ campaign say wo district bia constituency bia mo ba besi eye Islamic school e di amom Islamic SHS e di amom se na ebe ye o metreni mo soso mo ma e wo hodom bepem ne a ye wa from 2020 num bepem ne a me ne mo kasai ye wura 2024 elections mo awi a ye ko 6 months into an election abusiafo a single offense school krampo Bawumia ACB sabio asoso krampo ye de bo ho say ebia ye cut sub for one of the SHS no krampo and as school no ebi enyansi da entra ukodi e de kire omo eye wunua no wankasa wunua no nkramofo wadi ntro bebre e na akire wunua no nkramofo a untimi nyemu biara emfa momo enso enyoma ye kan ni nyina omampanyin Mahama ayebi e de ama eye nkramofo sabi wa ya akwaye university krompo ama nkramofo ama na yi ukrum ha pati ase enti no si e kase e kapa dia na omampanyin akufu ado ene Mahmud Bawumia no awase e hwe omu yie na yetumi e make sure say sa tribal and religious politics no master te omu play no Ghana fo nyina ani beba omo so na ya stop omo once and for all enye sa ye de sa anhwe na one day omo the problem e de abraye e wo krum ha enti honorable Suhuyini asama o kan moma yen fa critical na yen hwe ni yen pam no honorable Suhuyini oye kramoni e no wo kasa ansam no ote ni o kana se onim se de man no eye no dangerous enti empenyifo e wo se o mene ne kasa mesra mu se Ghana fo oye kramoni na o hwe me a me pa chaw ebeye yi a yem punish this man no nsua ne lessons no say Ghana we are not going to tolerate offense and religious politics okrum ha sabio religious politics emfa hwe mre okrum ha tribal politics and na say oman yi amanne oman atete apansam me ya santini me ya chemuni me ya kramoni offense me ya dagumbani me ya chokosini me ya mampurusini we ya fulani we ya konkomani eno ene de problem kase pa ba enne amaya du ba bia ya du no ti abusuafo moma yi sua ye lessons emfrim na yemfa rectify problems a enam kwan so a eba aha aye PENDREAM TV message so subscribe to the channel na wa like video yi e de ama me wa adwenkyere bia mesro fato comment section no ase e fa ma na share video no to other platforms a wo so ye wo social media platforms ni nyinaa so over Facebook PENDREAM TV Ghana over Twitter and Instagram and TikTok ni nyinaa PENDREAM TV meso say abrebia no obeba ye channels no so na woni en abe behwe abom PENDREAM TV ese edam yopo
ma never I say ma PENDREAM TV de ose edam yopo